So Steve Lafayette, I don't know how this is going to work because I've never done it like this before. The Wall Street Journal 11-minute disaster for the president and for Donald Trump. I'm about to play and stop and play and stop and play. First of all, you're going to watch in this tape that somehow they think he's being disrespectful doing this at a press conference, but they held the press conference. Zelensky, this is one of the worst things I've ever seen in my life by the president, and especially J.D. Vance. Watch the president become unhinged, or listen, because this is going to be more of an audio thing, because I'm going to be looking down at some notes. But this thing is so stupid and so ill-planned. This is why President Trump, with the Doge stuff, ill-planned. Everything he does. He's lazy. He doesn't give a crap about anything but himself. He certainly doesn't care about America. He couldn't care less about Zelensky. Watch what happens. At the very end, things are going, yes, okay, I don't hear what happens before. They say, let's take one more question. And they ask a Polish guy from the press. And he says, and now I'm talking with my friends in Poland, and they are worried that you will align yourself too much with Putin. He's talking to President. So I'll stop it and we'll go, but I want to go through this.
With my friends in Poland, and they are worried that you align yourself too much with Putin. What's your message for them?
What's your message for them? He says to the president.
Well, if I didn't align myself with both of them, you'd never have a deal.
So the word deal always comes out. He has to align himself with both of them. We don't know why. Why not just with freedom? Why not with the people on the right side of history?
You want me to say really terrible things about Putin and then say, hi, Vladimir, how are we doing on the deal? It doesn't work that way. I'm not
Deal, second time,
I'm
two
not
deals.
aligned with anybody. I'm aligned with the United States of America and for the good of the world. I'm aligned with the world.
He's aligned with the world. It always gets bigger. It starts with the United States of America and it goes to he's aligned with the world. He's clearly not aligned with the world on freedom or human rights or anything, but here it goes.
I want to get this thing over with. You see the hate?
I want to get this thing over with. Doesn't matter how. I want to get this thing over with.
Hatred he's got for Putin. It's very tough for me to make a deal with that kind of hate. He's got tremendous hatred.
He's talking about Zelensky, and he says Zelensky has tremendous hate for Putin. Can we just go through this for a second? I'm going to keep going through this. Do you think Zelensky has some tremendous hate for Putin? I would think so. Hundreds of thousands of people dead. Buildings destroyed. Women raped. 20-some-odd% of the land gone. Young males dead. Limbs blown off. They didn't do anything. The people in Ukraine didn't do a single thing to deserve this. Everybody in the world knows this, except for, I guess, the guys who followed this guy, University of Chicago, whatever his name is, and maybe Trump. Putin. Everybody knows what's going on with Putin. And of course he hates him. Do you know that at least 20,000 babies or little kids have been taken from their parents in Ukraine and brought back to Russia to be indoctrinated and become Russians because they can't produce their own people? Maybe 100,000. What if it was one of your kids? Oh, that's right. For most people listening, it's just something happening far away on the other side of the ocean. Don't worry about it. Don't worry about human rights. This is why America is failing, because of people like Trump, because he's a reflection of you, damn it.
And I understand that, but I can tell you the other side isn't exactly in love with, him either.
So it becomes this equal thing. They're not in love with each other because they're both sort of equal in Trump's eyes. Of course, Putin is better because Putin and Z are better because they're actually strong men.
So it's not a question of alignment. I'm aligned with the world.
The world.
I want to get the thing set. I'm aligned with Europe.
With Europe too. The world and Europe. Do you notice how he repeats these things as if there's something radically wrong with him? And they're very simple words. World. Deal. Wait till he gets to the 4-letter word card. C-A-R-D.
I want to see if we can get this thing done.
Done. Another deal.
You want me to be tough? I can be tougher than any.
Now here's where he goes, where he's the toughest guy in the world. He can be tougher than anybody in the world. He's the toughest guy who ever lived. He'll be tough, tough, tough.
Human being you've ever seen. I'd be so tough. But you're never going to get a deal that way. So that's the way it goes. One more question.
Hey, I will respond to this. So look.
Now here's where it all breaks down. No one's talking to J.D. Vance, right? He's 40 years old, never held a job over 2 years in his life, basically disagrees with almost everything he wrote in his first book, is a total sycophant, hated Trump, but when he saw the handwriting on the wall, like everybody else, except me probably, he went with Trump, and just everything Trump does is great. And now he's going to do even more to defend Trump, even though Trump doesn't need defending.
For 4 years in the United States of America, we had a president who stood up at press conferences and talked tough about Vladimir Putin, and then Putin invaded Ukraine and destroyed a significant chunk of the country. The path to peace and the path to prosperity is maybe engaging in diplomacy.
So diplomacy, even though they're just going to cut a deal. See, that's how you word these things. Just say it's diplomacy, because the people listening will be like, oh yeah, we want some diplomacy. By the way, that's only the beginning of blaming Biden, who deserves all the blame for the war starting, don't get me wrong. What happened in Afghanistan, I'm not going to have time to go through it. Biden is a total disaster. These people may be worse.
We tried the pathway of Joe Biden of thumping
Joe Biden, always thumping, right? See how they go back to the past, not to go
our
forward?
chest and pretending that the President of the United States' words mattered more than the President of the United States' action.
And what are the actions?
What makes America a good country is America engaging in diplomacy. That's what President Trump is doing.
Can I ask you?
Sure.
Can I ask you?
Yeah.
Okay.
One part.
He occupied our parts, big parts of Ukraine,
He occupied big parts of Ukraine, referring to Putin.
part of East and Crimea.
Crimea.
So he occupied it on 2014. So during a lot of years, so I'm not speaking about just Biden, but those time was Obama, then President Obama, then President Trump, then President Biden, now President Trump, and God bless, now President Trump will stop him. But during 2014, nobody stopped him.
During 2014, nobody stopped him.
He just occupied and took. He killed people, you know?
He killed people. See, Zelensky's saying he killed people.
What the contact line.
2015.
2014.
Trump has the wrong year. It's 2014.
2014 to 2014.
2014.
Yeah. So
I was
he killed.
not here.
Yeah, but
That's exactly right.
Yes, but during 2014 till 2022, what the situation the same. The people have been dying on the contact line.
People have been dying.
Nobody stopped him.
Nobody stopped
You
him.
know that we had conversations with him.
This is the important part. Zelensky says we've had conversations with him. They've had many, many conversations with him.
A lot of conversation, my bilateral conversation, and we signed with him, me, like a new president. In 2019, I signed with him
He signed agreements with him.
the deal. I signed with him, Macron and Merkel. We signed
Merkel, Macron, him, they signed a deal.
ceasefire.
Ceasefire.
Ceasefire. All of them told me that he will never go. We signed him with gas contract.
They signed a gas contract.
Yes, but after that, he broken the ceasefire. He killed our people,
He broke the ceasefire and he killed the people.
and he didn't exchange prisoners. We signed
And he did not exchange prisoners.
the exchange of prisoners, but he didn't do it. What kind of diplomacy, JD, you are speaking about? What?
Here's the only thing he asked. If you notice, he didn't raise his voice. What kind of diplomacy are you speaking about?
What do you mean?
I'm talking about
What do you mean? And so he's not raising his voice. What he's saying is like, listen. And so anyway, I should stop there before J.D. Vance makes a fool of himself. And I got my notes here, so I'm sorry. It's better to listen than to watch me look down. The entire approach of Russia for the last 500 years, back to my John Carl history course, a whole year of Russian history, back to Ivan III. You could go through this whole stuff. You could go to World War II. You could go through all the broken promises that have ever happened. There are so many. I'm not even going to try to list them. When it comes to Putin, there's an egregious pattern of broken promises regarding Ukraine, well before the invasion of 2022. In fact, the foreign minister, I can't say his last name, Kuleba, described it as a consistent strategy to, quote, kill, grab, lie, and deny. That's what he does. How about the Budapest Memorandum and Treaty of Friendship? In 1994, Russia signed the Budapest Memorandum, a critical agreement in which Ukraine agreed to surrender its nuclear arsenal. Then the third largest in the world. I've spoken this for years and years. Dumbest thing I ever saw happen. But they got security assurances from Russia, the United States, and the United Kingdom. Russia explicitly promised to respect Ukraine's borders and sovereignty. Ukraine proved its commitment to a global disarmament by not only giving its nuclear arms, but later working with the U.S. to dismantle 44 long-range strategic bombers and 1,068 cruise missiles. Then the Treaty of Friendship comes along. This is unbelievable. Then comes 2014, where Russia illegally occupied and annexed Crimea, followed by military intervention in Ukraine's eastern regions. You might remember the little green men. This blatant violation of international agreements demonstrated, quote, the Kremlin's promises weren't worth the paper they're written on, which people will say. What about the Minsk agreements and the failed ceasefires? Following Russia's 2014 annexation of Crimea and military intervention in eastern Ukraine, the Minsk agreements were negotiated to de-escalate the conflict. However, by 2015, 1 year later, the Ukrainian Minister of Defense reported that Russian troops had violated these agreements more than 4,000 times. These violations were confirmed by multiple international organizations, including the OSCE, the EU, journalists, blah, 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 blah. One of the most tragic examples of Russia's broken promises this period occurred during the battle for Elavikas in August of 2014. The Russian side promised safe passage and a ceasefire to Ukrainian defenders encircled in the city. However, as soon as Ukrainian forces moved out under this agreement, Russian artillery and tanks opened fire, killing 366 Ukrainian soldiers. Do you think Zelensky doesn't know this? The president doesn't know it. Vance, nor do they care. But do you think the leader of Ukraine doesn't know this? Ukraine attempted 200 rounds of negotiations with Russia and had tried to establish 20 ceasefires between 2014 and 2022. All were promptly violated by the Russian side. The pre-22 Russian invasion of Donetsk and the Luhansk regions resulted in 7,800 Ukrainian deaths, including more than 3,400 civilians, not to mention how many women were raped. Then comes the new heights of duplicity, the full-scale invasion of Ukraine. As Ukrainian Foreign Minister Kuleba noted, Putin is a habitual liar who promises international leaders that he would not attack Ukraine days before the invasion. Days before the invasion. I could read that. By the way, how about what happened in Georgia and Moldova with Putin? 1999, the sixth summit of the Organization for Security and Cooperation in Europe, that's called the OSCE, in Turkey. Russia pledged to withdraw its troops from Moldova and Georgia by December of 2002. All participating countries signed this document, but Russia never fulfilled the commitment. How about in Chechnya? Peace agreements with brutality. In Chechnya, Russia's approach to peace agreements was particularly cynical. Quote, the peace agreements promised by Moscow to Ichgara ended with 50 to 80,000 people dead under brutal shelling, according to one source. This represents one of the clearest examples of Russia using peace negotiations as a tactic to recover military strength before launching more decisive attacks. And that's what they're going to do with Ukraine. International arms agreements, the 2010 New START Treaty, which set a cap of 1,550 nuclear warheads, was violated. By 2014, Russia had 1,643. How about the one called the Black Sea Grain Initiative in 2023? An agreement brokered by Turkey and the United Nations in 2022 to facilitate exports of Ukrainian fertilizer, grain, and oilseed by easing Russia's military blockade of Ukraine's Black Sea ports. Broken. It goes on and on and on and on. I mean, my own notes from this stuff. Anyway, let's go back to this for a second, because this is just unbelievable. Let's go on with what he's... So remember, here comes Vance. And what Vance is a complete sycophant and a narcissist also. Watch.
About the kind of diplomacy that's going to end the destruction of your country.
Yeah, but
Mr. President, with
Now, see, he's the vice president talking to a president, and he's going to keep interrupting him.
respect, I think it's disrespectful for you to come to the Oval Office and try to litigate this in front of the American media.
Okay, did Zelensky come with the intent of doing a media show? Did he organize it in the Oval Office, or do you think Vance and Trump organized it? See how that's not even countered? And it probably won't be counted by the press. But obviously that's what happened. Zelensky didn't order the meeting. He'd be happy to meet with the president by himself. But Vance will have none of it.
Right now, you guys are going around and forcing conscripts to the front lines because you have manpower problems. You should be thanking the president for trying to bring it in.
So forcing conscripts to the front lines, that wasn't done by us? I don't even know if it's true. Because Vance has never been to Ukraine.
Into this
You
conflict.
ever been to Ukraine that you say what problems we have?
I have been to.
Come on.
He asked, Zelensky says, would you come once and see our problems?
I've actually watched and seen the stories, and I know what
But he's watched and seen the stories.
happens is you bring them on a propaganda tour, Mr. President.
He brings them on a propaganda tour, not the stuff that happens in Russia.
Do you disagree that you've had problems bringing people into your military?
We have problems.
And do you think that
I
it's
will
respectful
answer.
to come to the Oval Office of the
will
United
answer.
States of America and attack the administration that is trying to prevent the destruction of your?
Now, here's the words again. And attack the administration that's trying to blah, 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 help you. Did you see anything in this press conference that Zelensky attacked anybody? He simply asked a question, and he can't get the answer because they all know Russia will violate the treaty or agreement.
Your
A
country.
lot of questions. Let's start from the beginning. Sure. First of all, during the war, everybody has problems. Even you, but you have nice ocean and don't feel now, but you will feel it in the future.
Now, this is Zelensky probably shouldn't have said this. You'll feel this in the future. What he means is that once we lose all the Ukraine, you'll feel it because the whole Europe will be at war and not many people will be buying U.S. stuff and you'll be drawn into the war, which of course we would be.
You don't know that.
God bless.
You don't
God
know that.
bless. You will not
You
have
gotta-
a war.
Don't tell us what we're going to feel. We're trying to solve a problem. Don't tell us what we're going to feel.
I'm not telling you.
Because
I'm
you're in no
answering all
position to
these questions.
dictate that.
You're in no position to dictate that. This is the art of tearing people apart in debates. Like,
Remember
I'm not
this. You're in no position to dictate what we're going to feel.
he's not dictating, he's telling him what you're going to feel, not dictating.
We're going to feel very
You will
good.
feel influenced.
We're going to feel very
I'm
good and
telling
very
you,
strong.
You will feel influenced.
You're right now not in a very good position. You've allowed
From the
yourself
very-
to be in a
from
very
the
bad
very
position,
beginning
and
of
he
the
happens
war.
to be right
From
about
the
it.
very beginning of the war.
Remember, he's allowed himself to be in a very bad position because, yes, Ukraine never should have signed off on these agreements. Yes, Ukraine should have kept its nuclear weapons. Yes, it should have kept its ICBMs. It should never have given up one of those missiles.
Good position.
I was-
You don't have the cards right.
Okay, now, here's the thing about cards. That's the first time we're going to hear this. Cards, once. You don't have the cards. Now, remember, Zelensky might not be a guy that's a term in Ukraine that they use.
now. With us, you start having
Not
cards.
playing cards.
With us, cards. With us, you start having cards. Two references to cards.
Right now, you
I'm
don't
very
have your playing
serious,
cards.
Mr. President.
Playing cards. Cards. Third time.
I'm
Playing
very
cards.
serious.
You're
I'm
gambling
the
with the
president
lives
of
of
war.
millions of people.
You think-
You're gambling with World War III.
And this is where Trump starts to go off the rails. Now he starts talking about World War III, which he never should bring up.
You're gambling with World War III.
He says it twice.
And what you're doing is very disrespectful to the country, this country.
I'm-
How Zelensky was disrespectful with asking a question about who's going to protect us after you have after you have an agreement, after all the ones have been broken, and I mentioned even more than he mentioned. How is he being disrespectful? Does anybody know?
It's
With
back
all
to
respect to
you.
you.
Far more than a lot of people said
Very
they
respect.
should have.
Have you said thank you once?
Now, Vance wants to know if he said thank you once. You could go look him up saying thank you all the time, but maybe not today. Maybe he didn't say it today.
Entire meeting? No, in this
Even
entire meeting,
today.
have you said thank you?
In this entire meeting.
Today.
You went to Pennsylvania and campaigned for the opposition in October. Offer some words of appreciation.
Now it breaks down to politics about him campaigning with the vice presidential candidate for President Harris, which I don't remember, but I don't think he did, but who knows? But see how it's breaking down into these guys, what they really think about?
For the United States of America and the president who's trying to save your country.
Please, you think that if you will speak very loudly about the war, you
He's
can
not speaking.
He says if you speak loudly and then the president interrupts him because they're going to defend each other in two-time on Zelensky, who is calm as can be. I absolutely love this guy. He is so calm. He never points. He's got this war fatigue stuff on, and he's just as calm as cool and the other people are losing it.
Loudly. He's not speaking loudly. Your
He's not speaking loudly. Of course, he was speaking loudly, but he wasn't speaking that loudly.
country's in big trouble.
Can I
Wait a minute.
answer?
No.
Can
You've
I
done a lot of
answer?
talking. Your country is in big trouble.
I know.
You're not.
Your country is in big trouble, and Zelensky looks at him and goes, "I know. That's why I'm here, buddy."
Winning.
know.
You're not winning this.
He
You
says
have a damn good chance of
we
coming
are
out
staying,
okay because of
Mr.
us.
President.
because of us.
We are staying in our country, staying strong from the very beginning of the war. We've been alone, and we are thankful. I said thanks
You haven't
in
been
this
alone.
cabinet.
You
and
haven't
not
been
only
alone.
in this
We
cabinet.
gave you
I
through this
said
stupid president $350 billion.
By the way, he keeps repeating the wrong number. It's 120 billion. He says 350 billion. He actually says that Zelensky has a 4% approval rating. It's like 57, although how do we really know? I don't know. But he'll just keep repeating these lies, and no one will interrupt the president, tell him it's a bald-faced lie.
You voted
We gave
for
you
your
military equipment,
You
and your
voted
men
for
are
your
brave,
president.
but they had to use our military.
What about
if,
West?
if you didn't have
You
our
invited
military
me-
equipment,
you invited
if
me
you
to
didn't have our military equipment, this war would have been over in 2 weeks.
Watch
In
Zelensky.
3 days, I heard it from
In 3 days, he's waving, he's dismissing it in 3 days. This is what you have to do to President Trump. It's the opposite. I've been saying this for months for these foreign leaders. This is what you have to do to Trump. Dismiss him, wave it off. Yeah, I heard 3 days. That's what it was supposed to be, by the way, according to the CIA.
Putin in 3 days. This is something
Maybe
new.
less.
In 2 weeks. Of course, yes.
It's going to be a very hard thing to do business like this. I tell you.
Just say thank you.
I said a lot of times,
accept that there
thank you
accept
to
that,
American people.
accept that there are disagreements, and let's go litigate those disagreements rather than trying to fight it out in the American media when you're wrong.
So here's the thing that's unbelievable that I don't think the press will pick up on. It's not Zelensky fighting it out, litigating it in the press. They called him into the Oval Office. Why are they not 3 people or 6 people or whatever in a room and not meeting with the press till they're done? Who thought that up? Who's the press secretary of this? Did Trump think it up? I don't know. It's stupid. You would never do this because you never go to a meeting where you don't know the outcome, right? Everybody who's been in business?
We know that you're
But
wrong.
you see, I think it's good for the American people to see what's going on.
And Trump is exactly right. Because now you see what's going on. There's a guy who showed up in America who's tough as nails, and he'll take on President Trump directly, politely, by asking one question they don't want to hear, and the whole meeting spins out of control. Within 4 minutes of this meeting, him being asked to leave the White House. Imagine that.
I think it's very important. That's why I kept this going so long. You have to be thankful. You don't have the
I'm
cards.
thankful.
You're
Cards. 5th reference to cards.
buried there. Your people are dying.
tell you
You're
anything.
running low
I
on
know.
soldiers.
Don't-
Listen,
don't, please,
you're running
Mr.
low on
President.
soldiers. It would be a damn good thing. And
Mr.
then you tell us, I don't want a ceasefire. I don't want to see.
Like, of course he doesn't want a ceasefire. He wants some guarantees that his people aren't killed. Because I just read into the record 1/20th of what's happened in the last, 20 years.
Ceasefire. I want to go, and I wanted this. Look, if you could get a ceasefire right now, I tell you, you take it so the bullets stop flying and your men stop getting killed.
Of course, we want to.
Never take the ceasefire. Never let Russia rebuild. This is where Trump and Vance are so off their rocker, and so isn't everybody else in Europe. If you just took a real politic analysis and forget about the human lives and everything, it's far better for Russia continue to lose more troops at a 4-to-1 or 10-to-1 ratio, bring in some more North Korean people who have, I guess, fight with like knives. You've seen the videos. I mean, it's sad. They're dying. But it'd be way better for America. Think about it. Russia and Putin is at war with America through Ukraine. We've lost no soldiers. We spent $120 billion and we're winning, or we're at least not losing. But we're actually winning because at this rate, I won't go into all the stuff. They're going to run out of stuff and people. You go to another winter and people keep supplying, and believe me, the Swedes, the Finns, the Poles, they get it, and I think even Germany's starting to get it. But America doesn't get it. Like, it's far better to not have a ceasefire for America to watch Russia continue to go down faster and faster and lose its country, and Putin to lose his head, literally lose his head.
to stop the war.
But you're saying you don't want a
But I
ceasefire.
said to you,
I want a
with
ceasefire.
guarantees.
Because you'll get a ceasefire faster than an agreement.
Ask our
Because you'll get a ceasefire faster than you'll get an agreement. What does that even mean, folks? Does anybody disagree with the fact that it would be way better to keep supporting Zelensky and the gang for another couple of years if all you cared about was Russia losing, finally really losing? And what should happen now, and this is why these other countries don't get it quite, Finland should be talking about the border should be 300 miles in or 30 miles in. They should be discussing at the UN or with some people that they really want borders that are closer. They want to take back some Russian stuff they lost. I don't know. They just make it up if they have to. The Chechens from the south should be saying the same thing.
people about ceasefire, what they think.
That wasn't with me.
For you what
That wasn't with me. That was with a guy named Biden who was not a smart person.
Now Biden, who's not, see, it goes into the Biden thing.
That was with Obama.
It was your president.
Excuse me. That was with Obama, who gave you sheets, and I gave you javelins.
Yes.
I gave you the javelins to take out all those tanks. Obama.
Wait a second. He couldn't have given the javelins until January 21st. It's like a month to take out all the tanks. Does anybody see what goes on with the conversations? Anybody ever break it down, or they just let him roll?
Gave you sheets. In fact, the statement is Obama gave sheets and Trump gave javelins. You got to be more thankful, because let me tell you, you don't have the cards.
Cards, seventh or sixth, maybe sixth reference to cards.
With us, you have the cards.
Seventh,
But without us, you don't have any cards.
eighth.
It'll be a tough deal to make, because the attitudes have to change.
So when he says attitudes, what he means is that you have to be a sycophant to me, or you have to leave the White House. That's it. That's all he cares about. It's so evident. This is the most unbelievable public display for Trump, and I think it's a big loser for him.
If Russia breaks ceasefire, what if Russia breaks peace talks? What do you do then? I understand that
What do you do then? I understand it's a heated conversation now.
it's a heated conversation right
What are you
now.
saying?
What
She's
if
asking, what if Russia breaks the ceasefire?
What if anything? What if a bomb drops on your head right now?
Now, the illusion of being in the Oval Office, of a bomb dropping on your head right now, is not the one I would use if I were president. At least I hope I wouldn't. So he's talked about the Third World War, a bomb dropping on this lady's head, as if that would ever happen, number one, or there's sort of like the same kind of thing to talk about, rather than the fact that they're going to break the ceasefire. They're going to keep killing Ukrainians and raping their women and taking their children.
Okay? What if they broke it? I don't know. They broke it with Biden, because Biden, they didn't respect him. They didn't respect Obama.
The fifth reference, maybe the sixth reference to Obama and Biden in the
They
past.
respect me.
They respect me. See, that's the whole thing, folks.
Let me tell you, Putin went through a hell of a lot with me. He went through a phony witch hunt where they used him and Russia.
And Russia. Do you think Hunter Biden's about to come up? Do you hear in your brain that something stuck in the president's brain that has nothing to do with your national security?
Russia. You ever hear of that deal? That was a phony Hunter Biden,
There it is.
Joe Biden scam. Hillary Clinton, Shifty Adam Schiff. It was a Democrat scam.
And it was. But it's no need to bring it up right now.
And he had to go through that. And he did go through it. We didn't end up in a war. And he went through it. He was accused of all that stuff. He had nothing to do with it. It came out of Hunter Biden's bathroom. It
Hunter Biden's bathroom.
came out of Hunter Biden's bedroom. It was disgusting. And then they said, oh, the laptop from hell was made by Russia. The 51 agents. The whole thing was a scam. And he had to put up with that. He was being accused of all that stuff.
Now, while this is happening, as he becomes totally unhinged about his own personal problems, Zelensky is calm, doesn't point, keeps his hands together, can't believe what's going on probably, but the Trump is totally out of control.
All I can say is this. He might have broken deals with Obama and Bush, and he might have broken them with Biden. He did, maybe. Maybe he didn't. I don't know what happened. But he didn't break them with me. He wants to make a deal. I don't know if you can make a deal. The problem is, I've empowered you to be a tough guy. And I don't think you'd be a
I've empowered you to be a tough guy.
tough guy without the United States. And your people are very brave. But you're either going to make a deal or we're out. And if we're out, you'll fight it out. I don't think it's going to be pretty, but you'll fight it out.
And this is where Zelensky should turn to him and say, Mr. President, I thank you for your time. We will fight to the last man and woman. I want to reiterate to you how many women they've raped of ours and how many kids they've killed. They're going to do it. They've been doing it since Ivan the Terrible in the 1500s, Mr. President. Thanks for having me. But he doesn't do that. He just now he doesn't know what to do.
But you don't have the cards. But once
Ninth on cards.
we sign that deal, you're in a much better position. But you're not acting.
They're not in a much better position because even during the ceasefire, what Russia will do with its war economy will rebuild tanks, rebuild munitions, get more people. That's what they'll do. And they'll be ready to go. And they don't care if it's 4 years after Trump leaves. They do care, but they'll wait.
Acting at all thankful. And that's not a nice thing. I'll be honest, that's not a nice thing. All right, I think we've seen it.
The thankful stuff
What do you
comes
think,
up.
huh? This is going to be great television, I will say that. All right, we'll see what we can do about putting it together.
So that's it. That's the whole thing. It breaks down. I'll put up, you can watch it yourself. This gets to what everybody is doing about this, which is basically nothing. What America has sunk into is that basically there are teams. Doesn't matter what team you're really on. You think you're on the Christian team, so now you're just going to pray for President Trump and you play for readers and so forth. I'm really like Mark 15. Like, everybody get off your ass and start tipping the tables over at the temple. Like, just praying won't do it, folks. This country is in a disastrous situation. All we had to do, by the way, all Trump had to do when he became president was do the things he was doing well, like stop the illegal immigration. It looks like it's stopping. He could have taken credit for that one at a time. No, they got to do 10 things at a time. And now this will take up an enormous amount of time. And I'm just glad that Zelensky, by asking a simple question, is actually just standing up to the President of the United States. So you all can see how unhinged he becomes. Maybe you don't. Maybe you think that Ukraine started the war. The president said that Ukraine started the war. And now everybody in this, except for the Secretary of State, Rubio, who I actually think Rubio won't last forever. That's my personal opinion, because he actually disagrees with every single thing. This is a disaster for America. We need to win the war. Biden didn't win the war because he only wants ties like every other president. But we actually need to win this war. And I think the Europeans are realizing that they're going to have to win the war. But this is a disaster. Combined with the tariffs and what's happening in Canada where they won't buy American products, you can't take on all these issues at once. And you never invite someone to a meeting and don't know the outcome. Never. But Trump, and this is the first time I've said it, he shows his age here. He is unhinged. And if you notice, because of his narcissism, it always goes back to either blaming Biden or now Hunter Biden, whatever it might be, and saying he's given him the tanks or he's given him the missiles or whatever, even though he's been in office for a month. This is setting down a very bad road toward what may very well be World War III. That's how wars happen.